My name is Eugenie Aroutcheff, and I'm the co-founder and project coordinator for Grow 73. Um, where to start, really? This year we're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary, so it's quite an achievement for a very grassroots organization. Um, if you would like to go to slide 2, please, thank you. So how did it all start? 10 years ago, well, first I was new into my area, didn't know anyone, had young children, and coming from a small village in France where food is part of your life, I wanted to be able to give this to my children. And I don't know if you're familiar with Rutherglen, but it's a urban urban area with parks, lots of green spaces, but no, at the time there was no growing facilities. So I started to look around the area to see if there was any potential to grow some food, approached the council, and was told that in the park I could have a small flower bed, and if I did a good job with it, I might be able to extend it. So we came across Eden Project, which were doing the big lunch, and that was a way for us to actually test a bit the community and see if there was an appetite for gatherings and get to know your community. So we approached the council and asked if we could organize a big lunch in the park and advertised it, and 75 people turned up of all ages with their picnic, and we had a local band that came to play, and we were quite surprised to see the amount of people that turned up. For that, we needed a toilet, and in the park, there's no toilet. So we approached the bowling green, which none of us knew actually existed because it was so sheltered by trees. And they let us use the toilet facility. And as we entered, we realized that they were surrounded by a massive piece of land of 3 disused bowling greens. And we asked them why it was fenced off to the public when it was actually part of public land. And it used to be the bowling greens, but for vandalism reasons over the years, they asked the council if they could completely fence it off, and therefore the bowlers were the only ones with access to the ground. So this is how really it all started. We realized that there was a need for and an appetite from the community to actually gather for events, for growing, just a proper place to gather as a community, really. So we ended up putting an asset transfer to the council. If you would like to go to the next slide, please. So that's I think the picture that you see actually at the top is the 3 disused bowling green, and below is what we've done before. So we approached an architect locally who looked at ways in which we could use the land. So if you see on this photo, on this slide, we've got the bowling green on the bottom left hand corner, and all the zones attached next to it is the land that we acquired through the asset transfer. So we did a bit of exercise with the community to find out what we could use this space for. And important for later on, but on the right-hand side, you've got a care home. And what happened with the care home is that for them to be able to access the park, which is on the left-hand side where the yellow arrow is, they have to be bused to do not even a 5-minute walk journey, but the roads are so inaccessible, and that was becoming a problem. So we ended up, as part of the planning permission, we added an access so that the care home could access through our site to then go onto the park. Could you put the next slide, please? Thank you. So that's a better view of what we've ended up sort of designing. So you've got the bowling green one, which is where the existing one with the bowling club. And as part of the asset transfer and the planning condition were that we had to fence them off completely, create two new accesses to our site. And at the time, we had worked for 7 years as volunteers, had a small bank account, hardly any money in it. Everything we had been doing was really on a shoestring budget. And so we learned very quickly how to use whatever we could that was going in the waste, or ask for favors, work with the community to try and get to, well, actually to show people that you don't need to have a massive infrastructure to start getting things going. But we had so many challenges with the asset transfer. I think it was one of the new ones for South Lanarkshire Council, and it took 4 years in all to go through. And when you're a grassroots group, you not only you become full-time volunteers, but you don't come with all the skills that are required to go through this process, such as becoming a lawyer, not my skill, a project manager, a surveyor, planner, anything. You had to go and ask and learn, and it was difficult. But we couldn't get so funding at the time for that required something like £24,000 to just get a fence and two accesses. And because we didn't have any track record from any funders, it felt like something that was not very exciting to fund. So we worked closely with our community, realized that there was lots of big organizations that we didn't actually know really what they were doing on the ground. And we felt that if we were working on the ground and we couldn't see what people were doing, then how could our community really find out what other people were doing? So we set up a green network. And that was really to sort of avoid duplication of effort, work more collaboratively, and possibly look at some joint application for funding, which ended up being the case. And we got some money from CSGN, which allowed us to jointly apply for funding. So one group might have wanted some raised beds, and other group some compost, but we needed that fence and that entrance. Otherwise, that was one of the conditions. We weren't able to develop the site. So we ended up getting that money, and that was really the kickstart of it. Could you move to the next slide, please? So as I said, 10 years this year. So the milestones really was 2024 was 14, sorry, was when we started. We were just an incorporated group. 2016 we rebranded to Grow 73 and worked with local designers. You know why you actually realize that you cannot make it work if you are not bold enough to go and ask for favors. And actually our community were really behind us. We got so much pro bono from lawyers, from graphic designers, from lots of people who helped us, from businesses who helped us put the business plan together. And all this really helped us put Grow 73 together. We became a charity in 2018, developed lots of, we did a big project with Tesco at the time. We're giving grants of £12,000, and we worked with care homes and schools to actually gather all the stories of local heritage, which is really big in Rutherglen. And the content of those stories, working with a storyteller, were going to help us inform a sculpture trail in the park, but also do a mural at the train station in Rutherglen. Because when you arrive in Rutherglen, I don't know if you've been, there's a very long corridor, and you arrive in a kind of housing estate, and you actually don't know where the city centre is, and you just think, well, what's this place? And it's not very inviting. So we did a mural just at the entrance of the train station, and that was all about local snippets of stories that we had gathered from the care home and the schools. And actually, this mural has been up for, I think, 5 or 6 years now, and it's never been vandalized, and people feel very proud about it. There's a real sense of pride, and I think what we do actually enables people to be able to express that sense of pride and feel that they want to be part of that. So 2019 asset transfer was granted, 2020 planning permission. We didn't actually, because of all the things I said about funding, we actually didn't get to start work until 2022, which meant that we got on with work that we did out with the site, and that was in schools and a small green spaces that we could find. But people didn't still know who we were because we didn't have a hub, a place that we could call that was our site, and people could recognize that it was us. And that's why it was so important for us to focus on developing the site. So lot 2021 we got our first big pot of money from Awards for All, and that was to develop a beeline. And that was really on the back of everything that we had done with the community. It was really important that we kept linking the community and finding out what they wanted to do. But also we had a very big passion amongst our volunteers on insects, pollinators, and because Rutherglen has a history of being so contaminated from the heavy industry, White's factory, the carpet, the chromium, everything, we were left with not many sites that actually you could grow on. And so there was a kind of need to be able to do something that was environmental, that was about supporting biodiversity, but also about food growing in a safe environment. So the Beeline project was really about installing lots of little small green oases along the communities around us, so that it actually with nectar-rich plants, which would allow the pollinators as they fly to come and feed on, and then move on to the next area where there was some food for them. But also for us, it had a double image. It was also about pollinating a community. So wherever we had the pot for the pollinators, we also pollinated the community, and that they became part of our project. And that happened during COVID, unfortunately, which meant that we couldn't actually be physically there, but we had managed to actually place all the whiskey barrels along the way. And we ended up delivering 750 growing kits for the community to grow from home. And then in the daily allowance for walking, they were allowed to be able to put those plants in the whiskey barrel. And that got the attention from Countryfile, who came to film us because they liked the work that we did within the communities, but also nature. So moving on quicker, 2022 we did a lot of work with other group. We were part of COP26. Running out of time came to our site, and a momentum has been gathering over the years where people have started to notice the work that we were doing, but really down to the way that we collaborate with local organization and groups, and how we can't be working in solo. It doesn't work anymore. Then we got some more funding, and finally to pay for my time and for a full-time gardener, as well as being able to get 80 raised beds and be able to, so you can move to the next slide, please. Thank you. Could you move to the next slide? Thank you. So we've managed to invest in a really large polytunnel, and that will be the first year of using it, and that will allow to be able to grow and train people to learn how to grow, and especially young people leaving school who probably don't have any focus at this stage. We've also developed a really big fruit cage, which we are hoping to plant over this winter. But I think so we are on to our third growing season. We rent beds out just for 1 year to the local community, so they get the chance to learn whether growing is for them. So we've got 80 raised beds. And we also have lots of schools who come and use the space, and they've got their own raised beds. We've got NHS who has their own beds. Secondary schools, the care home comes through and has their own beds as well. So it's actually become a place where people really feel that they're part of we've kind of released the land for the people and enabled them to actually use it. So we've really, in the last 3 years, we've spent most of our time really doing the infrastructure, and now we need to sort of kind of consolidate the work that we've done and actually think about how we're going to use the site and how can we become more sustainable and generate our own income. Can you move to the next slide, please? Coffee time is a big part of our volunteer sessions, and we have now on average 30 people every week who turn up to our sessions. Can you move to the next one? Biodiversity work, so that was part of the beeline I was telling you about. We're a bit all over the place. Next slide. That was telling you about the green network that we are part of. We're also part of the beeline. We are a pesticide-free campaigner, and we are hoping to become an eco-ambassador about soil testing, a bigger project that is part of a European-wide project. Next slide. So if you felt that you wanted to come and visit us, door open there, we're more than happy to support this. But if you felt you wanted to come, you can join us on Monday and Thursdays when we have sessions. All the other days we work in schools. We have a few events in the year, of which the BuzzFest in usually the second week in June, and over the years. So that was the big lunch that we told you about right at the beginning. And now we've got over 1,000 people who turn up to our events with local bands playing, people coming with their picnics and lots of things. And at Christmas, we do a sing-along in the park, and we had about 400 people coming. So that's it just shows that actually, if you look around, there might be a piece of land that you might be interested in. Just go and knock on the door to your council and see how your community reacts. But I think starting small is probably the best way to go and grow with your community. I think helicoptered in projects haven't always worked because it's harder to actually get a community to come into something that doesn't belong to them. So empowerment is really key to how you're going to work around your community. Thank you for your time. I think there was one more slide, but it was just to say thank you for listening and thank you for inviting me. That's it.